Okay, thank you, and welcome everybody. So today we're going to try something that's a little bit different within the Topaz world with Topaz Studio, and this is a blending of two images, and this can be done in multiple images as well. But shooting for post-processing was the thrust of this, to try and extend the dynamic range. As you can see from the screen up here, I've got a scene from at night, and anybody that did a shot at night knows very well that you shoot for the darks and the lights are blown out completely. If you shoot for the lights, you're blocked up. So it's always at least two images and two exposures to get that. And we're going to try it and bring all of these together within Topaz so that we come out with a final image that's pleasing to the eye. And this is just a matter of thinking and preconceiving what your image should look like and knowing the software well enough to be able to accomplish the goal here. So let's begin. This is a scene from in Boston. And I'm going to use some presets that I've already developed for today. And we'll start with the darker. I like to start with the darker image on top. And you can reverse this, but this is the workflow that I've come up with. And we'll start with this one. And what I'm doing is increasing a little bit of the brightness on these lights in the background here without opening up the shadows too much. And I've created this preset called Interior with Details, which seems to work very, very, very well with this particular image. Now I am going to tweak this a little bit because it was created for other applications that I use. So we will do a little bit of tweaking here and make this thing hopefully come to life a little bit better on the base image. Increase the exposure, increase the shadow, and then when we bring the other one in, we'll blend the two together. As you can see from the light sources there, it's a little off. We'll fix that in due course here. So a little bit of contrast, some micro contrast with some adjustments, and everything always is seasoned to taste as it works best for your particular image. As you can see, I'm bringing a little bit more mid-tone detail out, and you can see some of the buildings come up alive and some of the sky, and we're not blocked up completely. We've got some more detail. We've added some detail in here so we get some of the smaller details to shine for us and come alive. As you can see, some of the areas that I'm going to tweak just a little bit for this particular image and make it hopefully pop a little bit more. And we will drag down those highlights just a hair, because I really am focusing on this area up here where the lights are just very, very nice. And you can see the smoke coming out of the smokestack on top of that building in Boston. Unfortunately, shooting at night in a incandescent light area where the lights are just not white lights anymore, you're going to run into a color cast. As you can see here, we've got some saturation issues with some of the image, and I'm increasing the lightness and decreasing the overall saturation. It is a night scene, so we'll tweak it down, and I've got some blue in here for the sky, and I'm going to make that a little bit lighter, and the saturation just a hair under. And then down in the last base image, just a little bit of contrast on this particular curve. So we'll bring in the next image on top of this and blend. So we will bring in the lighter of the two image. This one, sorry. My eyes aren't what they used to be. And I like to bring this in as the background, and you'll see in a minute why. So what we're seeing now is a white mask, and as you know, white reveals and black conceals. So we're going to make this a inverted mask, a black mask, and I tend to favor luminosity, and I will work through this particular one. There are some images we will use the brush for, but this particular one I'm going to use Luminosity. And I'm going to select this image, that section right there, and I'm going to make the luminance value somewhere, well, the transparency somewhere around 68, 70, around here, just so you can see that it's almost like a zone 5 mask where it's blocking out the mid-tone grays, and just tweak this so that just the lights of the night are showing. Tweak this range down just a little bit. And again, always just seasoning to taste for your particular image. These are just giving you some guidelines of what we can do. As you can see from the mask, all of these lights are being blocked out. And what's coming through here is the bottom image a little bit more, with the lights being blocked out. So we're getting a little bit of both. So pressed done on that, and now we've got both images all together here. So we are going to, the next check is add a little bit of contrast at this particular image, because this is both images together now. Just add a little bit of contrast, because of the two images blended together. Now we've got our final one. And this is, again, always seasoned to taste. We'll bring the midtones up a little bit. So we open the image up a little bit brighter. And I'm going to bring that highlight down just a bit. So I really want to emphasize these lights in the background and the shadow. And the next adjustment I'm going to make, I'm going to bring in precision details, just to give it a little bit of a pop. And I'm going to use one of the presets and make a slight adjustment. And as you can see, it did exactly what it's supposed to do. It brought in a little bit of detail on the smaller ones and a little bit on the medium-sized details. The larger details it left alone. And last but not least, we're going to add a little bit of adjustment with the edges. I like to put the edges in there as part of my workflow, just to emphasize the structures a little bit more. It brings out the trees ever so slightly. Suppress the small images, edge thickness just a little bit, and it tends to bring out what I'm looking for with respect to definition in the trees, definition in the buildings, and definition in some of this foreground area here. So I'd be very happy with this particular one, and we'll move on to the next image. We've got a few to go here today. Now this one is a very unique one, and this is the only one I had to bring in as a JPEG, because this I shot at a 20 image focus stack, and then I had to blend them together and flatten them out, and then just to bring out all of the details. So from the foreground to the back of the picture or the image, it's completely text sharp with up to 20 images shooting here, different focus spots, and collecting all of it. So on this one here, we're going to bring in the top one, and then right away we're going to bring in the bottom one, which is the lighter of the two. Bear with me. Things are in the way. There it is. And we're just going to bring in the bottom one. And again, we'll make this a mask, a black mask. So I'm going to, you see this is much brighter than the background image. Click on here, reverse the polarity on the mask, so I'm revealing nothing from the top image, but everything from the bottom. And now we're going to put in another luminosity here, and I'm going to select the window on this particular one. And then we'll make the mask transparency a little bit brighter. And again, you can see where the window is now completely black. And so that brings in the original image. And we'll move this luminosity down to, we'll say 1920 in this range here. And you can see things that are becoming a little bit more black and some things are becoming gray. So we're combining I guess the best of both of these two images to get a final image, so that we have combined the highlights and the shadows to become one image completely. So at this point, I'm going to apply this, and then we'll put another set of images or presets on there. So we've got this one, and I've got my effects that are pre-established, already built. Let me find the one we're looking for here. Interior building, and it's going to make a lot of changes here. This is a starting point for me, and obviously you see it's too dark, so we're going to make some adjustments to it. I'm happy with it, so bring some adjustments to shadow. I like how this has now made this set of pipes here very, very black. So we've got a gold and a black color here. I'm going to open up the shadows just a little bit more. The clarity I'm happy with. The highlight I want to bring down just a hair. Black level. We're black here. And white level. From the back in the window again. You can see that brightened it up just a little bit, so I'm not too dark anymore. So this was the preset I made. You can see it's several effects in one. And again, since it was one preset and every photo is different, you tweak as needed to get the image that you want. What we want to do here, let's go a little bit different with the highlights and tone them down. And I'm going to bring the midtones up just a hair, and a little too much, kind of like this. And the shadow we've got, I want to bring down. So I would be happy with this, except for the coloring I'm not real thrilled with. So I'm going to, again, you can see it's got a lot of overall saturation. So we're going to bring that red down a little bit and make it a little bit more pleasing to the eye, and bring the brightness back to near normal. It's got orange in there, and this is from shooting indoors with the interior lighting from this particular building. And this is the way you get rid of any kind of a color cast that's associated with your image. This is a nice little feature within Topaz that you can see. If it's in your image, it will show a crosshatch screen, and you can tone it down, lighten it up, or change the hue and saturation of that particular. Now the blue saturation, I'll bring it down just a little bit more to make it more black looking, and I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. The details we'll leave alone at the preset that I've used here. And I'm going to add one last adjustment again. And I'm going to add the edges again. I tend to like this feature that's kind of not widely used or widely known about, but when you're shooting structures and you want the details to come out a little bit more without overdoing it, this feature here with the edges does a nice job. It really defines the edge. Say if it's the edge of a building, edge of a tree, and in this case, edge of some machinery that's interior to this particular building. I'm looking at this, and I'm happy with the blend that I've got between the two. I mean, you can continue and tweak this, but what I'm trying to show and trying to get through to you is the ability to be able to take two different exposures and extend the range of it and blend out pieces that you want in and hold back pieces that you don't want from the other exposure. So we won't save any of this, and we'll go to another one. Okay, we will go. One of my favorites, Mystic Seaport. I'm going there again this weekend for another shoot in Connecticut. Big images, I'm sorry. It's a 45 meg raw file. Sometimes it takes a few minutes.
I remember Mystic Seaport. I've actually been down there once. They got a pretty good aquarium.
Oh, that's very nice there. It's right next to the casino. So I'm going to the shoot. The bride is going to the casino. So again, we start with the darker image, which is going to be on top here. And I'm just going to use on the top one here, just a slight adjustment, not one of my presets, but I just want to open up the shadows just a little bit. So we'll go with the basic adjustment here. Maybe adjust the exposure to make it a little bit lighter. And what I don't want to happen is this to go too light on me, because this is what I shot for. I shot for or meted for outside, and then I meted for inside to get the both exposures to blend. That's the preconception idea of shooting for post, when you know what the software can do for you, and then you start shooting for the shadows, for the highlights and the midtones, and end up blending 2, 3, even 4 of these images together to get the final effect that you want, and not push the button, hope and pray. So we know where the white level is at this cloud up here, and you can see it's already brightened up, but it hasn't done too bad of a job of blowing things out or darkening them up. So we'll bring in the second image. And again, so I adjusted the darker image at first, and then I'll put a black mask with the lighter image and go from there. Again, it's very easy, and I tend to use Luminosity a lot. And I will go into this area up here. Again, make my mask transparency, because you're going to see this. What I'm hoping to get is that window will be very black. So it's going to show out the rest of the image, or let the rest of the lighter image blend through. So it really is a tweaking process here of where the right number is, so that you can get everything you need. I'm happy with this. It's bringing in some of the shade. It's bringing all of the background light from outside in, and it's not blowing out. And I'm still very light around the edges on this interior shot. And the next adjustment will highlight what we're looking for here. So the effect I'm looking for is working here. I've got black window, white edges around. So we'll press done here. And we will save this and go to our next image, which I've already made a preset, but I'll go through what I've done to it to help you see what's going on. I've made one called Interior Blend. So this is going to be affected on the entire image, and it really didn't affect the outside of the image where I was hoping to bring the outside in and I'll still at the same time allow the interior of the building with these window shades and this beautiful warm light to come through. And now we've got some definition of the workman's coffee cup and his thermos and all of his tools and little boats that he's building and all of the various tools that he's using to make his little model boats. But we will tweak this just a little bit. That is a little bit off for my personal taste. I want this to be a little bit more of drama. And again, always season to taste for your personal likes and dislikes. And I will use black level. It's already set at minus 19. Saturation, my contrast. That's what was involved in this particular interior blend preset that I've made. Again, we'll just tweak a little bit. We're not going to make perfect pictures here. I just want to give you a good idea of what's possible with Topaz in the studio and being able to shoot for post-processing. It's a little different concept, I guess, if you know what the software can do for you, and you can shoot for that. And knowing that if it takes 3 or 4 or even 5 images to get your final result, then that's what you need to do to get the image that's good enough to hang on a gallery wall or on somebody's wall in their home. So we've got a little bit of shadow, too much right there. And again, one of my like to do's is a little bit of precision detail. And we will just boost this up just a little bit because I do like all of the little structures that this worker has in his shop here, just to bring out the best of all of it. And I'm trying to bring out some of the texture that's in this old beaten down shade. Like this. And then we will go to, we have a little bit of haze here in the window, so I'm going to add some dehaze in here as well. Not too much, but enough to just see if we can get rid of some of that haze in the window. I think the window's dirty, but it is a little bit hazy looking. So we'll just add a little bit of strength here. I'm not seeing, you can see a little bit of effect here. If I hold this down to show you the original and see what we've done, this is where we started. And Heath, can you see the original start?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. And then this is where we're ending up. I'm going to add one last adjustment because it's just the workflow that I personally enjoy. And I like to put in this edges. And you have several, if you haven't used it, depending on if you're using color or black, white, a monochrome edge, color line, color edge, and the edge strength. Those of you that do use this, you know about it. Those that don't, I'm really going to give this a heavy hand, and you can see what a heavy hand does to the edges. Way too much. So again, everything gentle, just enough. And if you suppress the weak edges, a little bit less than what's coming here, and you can also make the thickness a little bit higher. If you've got some features in there that you really want to bring out, make that a little bit heavier. I would be happy with this and ready to print. When I took this particular shot, I didn't want the workman to move his coffee cup or his thermos or his bag. I wanted it to really look like a workman's bench, that we're just missing the workman right here at his craft. So we will end this one. Go ahead.
Can you show
Question?
the before and after one more time? Just click cancel. and then show the before and after one more time.
This is where we started. And this was after blending the two images together. And then I applied a series of presets and some adjustments to those presets that I've developed that I call interior blend, and then tweak them to suit the particular need of this particular image. Even without the change, this looks okay. But with the change, you can see I'm bringing out one heck of a lot more of the detail and the feel of this particular place. This was shot, early morning with the light coming in from that side of the building, and it really feels a nice look there. So we'll go on to another image after this. And I have a couple for Mystic Seaport here. The next one we'll do it a little bit differently, but apologize, I have big files, but it takes a minute sometimes. But once these images come up, you're going to be able to see clearly. There is two different sets of exposures that absolutely needed to be made here. I've got an interior structure right next to a window, and I wanted the window to be able to everybody to see what's on the outside of the window. Their little lighthouse that they've got outside there, and the Thames River that's sitting right behind it. I wanted the outside to be brought in, and then exposing for that with the first image, the darker image, and then with the interior shot exposing for the interior, so the window kind of gets a little bit blown out. But we will mask that out and allow both images to come together. Keep in mind, you can do this for 3, 4, 5 images. We're just doing 2 today for purposes of the webinar itself, to get you through this a little bit. So I know I need some change in the shadows here. When it opens up just a little bit, sometimes I'll use a pre-made preset, and sometimes we won't. We'll go to the black area, and I do want to go through what we're doing here, and you can see it's opening up just a little bit, which is what I want. In the shadow, too much. You want to not go to the point of no return. I mean, that looks horrible, and we'll just be right on the edge. Clarity, this building calls for it. Exposure, lighten this up just a little bit, so I do want to see a little bit of that shadow in there. So at this point, we're going to bring in the other image, which is the lighter of the two. We're going to do a couple of new things with this one to bring out some of the rope and some of this rope and make it feeling really warm. So this one will be a little bit different than what we've done in the past, up to a point. Again, we'll make it black. We'll make some luminosity, and we'll pick on this area here, and I'll bring my transparency of my mask up at least halfway to see where we're at. Luminosity and the range, it typically ends up for me somewhere around 25 or 30, and luminosity value somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. If I'm shooting for this effect here, I really like to see what's going on in the window over here, and judge have I gone too far, or if I jack up this luminosity, you're going to see things show up that you don't want. So we tend to bring that down, and I'm looking for evenness in the inside here, where it's not overdone and letting too much. Yes.
Can you turn off that image layer really quick and just hit the eyeball? If you turn it off and turn it back on. I think it's grabbed. So there's your basic adjustment for the original. Okay, I see what you did. All right.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, I'm getting
All
a
right.
lot of
So
questions about which image is stacked first. So I'm trying to get
I,
in.
in my workflow, I always put the dark image on top, and then I'll put a black mask and the lighter image on the bottom.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it does work in reverse, depending on what you're used to, and I'm just so used to putting the dark one first and then put a black mask, so then the lighter image comes underneath, and then I can paint away what I want or leave in what I want with the use of the mask. So I'm happy with this particular one at this point, but there are going to be many more changes to this particular image. So I have a preset once this saves that it's in my effects that I've used, and let me find it here. Detail here. So we've changed the look of this, and we're just at the beginning steps of this particular image to finalize it. So I'm going to make some adjustments because the preset is just is that it's a preset that is a starting point, and you always have to adjust the taste. Now, I'm not interested too much in making this a perfect exposure with no shadows. I do want shadows. I want some areas that are dark. I want some areas that are light. So we're going to make some tweaks to give us what we want. So now we've got a blended image, and we're going to make some adjustments. Again, you really need to tweak the sliders to give you what you want for your particular image. And I've brought up some of the shadows here. And there'll be another little step that will show you that we'll open that up a little bit more and highlight exactly what we want here. So next, I'm going to add a different kind of curve than I think you might be used to here. And what I want to do is almost a Z curve. And what we've done here is look what is done to this rope that's hanging. And we've done a little bit here and a little bit here. It's actually brightened it up a lot. And we're going to add a black mask. It's all gone. So now we go to the brush with a very, I guess, low opacity softness. I don't want too much to come through, and we can build up. We can add more swipes at this, the radius I have to see where we're at. I don't want to have it too big. I've got edge wear on, but now I'm just going to hit this just a little bit. We'll make sure we're on white. Sorry. And this is how you can dodge and burn using masks. Now, I'm not using my Wacom tablet today, so bear with me on, I may get a little bit sloppy with the pen or the mouse, but this is just a show you effect. You can see that we've got a little bit of a white coming through, and now I've brightened up this area here, and we're going to go back over to a little bit larger radius and come over to this area in here, and I'm going to turn this transparency down just a little bit, so the next one won't let as much through because I've already got some brightness in through here. And we're going to cover this rope. And we're going to cover this cloth down at the bottom here. And this is where the finesse comes in of making sure that you paint in and out what you want. It's really just like a painter with a easel and a palette, bringing in just what you want and the different amounts that you want. As you can see, I turned the transparency down a little bit in just this specific spot, so it didn't come through as white as we could, but just a little bit less. Again, this is the handcrafting part. we will come back up here just a little bit. I'm going to try and stay away from the highlighted areas and just show the darker areas as much as possible. And you can see it's come in as a gray, but now I've got a little bit more of attention, if you will, drawn to the rope area within this particular image. And I'll bring a little bit more in here, again at a very low opacity and transparency, and a little bit more in here, just so I'm having your eye go where I want you to go, and perhaps a little bit more here, just to draw you in. Draw down here. As you can see, we've made this a little bit brighter, and I'm trying to bring your eyes just where we want you to go. Now I'm going to add one last adjustment to this, or two last adjustments, sorry, and we're going to go with precision detail with this combined image, and I'm going to use one of the presets that's available from Topaz, and this was going to be subtle sharp, and I'm going to turn this opacity down just a hair because it's a little more than I want, probably 45–50%, but it gives me the effect that I'm looking for. And again, my favorite with the lines or edges to really emphasize the structure of that rope a little bit. And you just need a hint of it, too much, just a hint. And now let me show you the before and where we ended up. Very different.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean this is a little trick here with this dodge burn that I've been able to incorporate just by using the use of tone curves and be able to then come back in with the mask and then slightly bring it through that black mask and get the effect I want. So this takes the need of or use of dodge burning away. I mean, it's just there.
What I really like about this approach to dodging and burning too is that normally if you use a dodge and burn tool, you can't go back and make an adjustment. But if you use any of the adjustments in this masking to achieve the same effect, you can always go back to that adjustment and tweak it
Absolutely.
to make changes. That's one
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I hate about dodge burn in a traditional sense that I really like about using this method.
Yeah, I'm real pleased with being able to do this, and using the tone curve, the curves, and adjust up, make it brighter just where you want it, and then again, this is the pre-visualization of, well, I knew that this was dark in there, but I wanted that to stand out. So I'd be real happy with this particular image and be ready for print. So I really like the subtle tones here that's just under the window. So I really didn't need this very bright, but just enough of like a rim light here on the rope itself, and kind of like a reflected light. I mean, this is obviously a little too bright right at the window, but over here, and this is because of the tone curve and the mask and the use of both together.
That's beautiful.
Any questions on this one?
We're about, well, I've got a couple questions I wanted to cover in a Q&A at the end, but we're about 20 minutes out, so if you can do another one, we got about 10 minutes to do another.
You betcha. Cool. You betcha. I have several. This will be a fairly straightforward, easy one. And I think that's one that you actually showed in the advertisement. So let's bring that one in. And this will be black and white. In the end, it'll be black and white. Fort Warren. Sorry about taking so long to bring them in, but it is, big raw files.
Yeah, you're shooting pretty large files.
Yeah, sorry about that, but you know, those Nikon have big files. So the one I showed you earlier with the Waterwork, so all of the pipes and everything, that was actually, I started out with 20 images and did a focus stack and then blended it. And then I did it at a different exposure in the same amount of shots. So it got the crystal clear sharp all the way through, and then bring it into Topaz to do the rest of it.
Actually, before we get started here, I kind of wanted to highlight a new feature of the latest update, if that's all right.
Yep, sure.
So you see right where you're at in the film strip view, you see that little pencil tool? That little pencil icon next to your photo name?
Yes.
Can you click that? So we've added the ability for you to change your image name, so you could name this one, I guess, dark, if you wanted to, since that's the dark exposure. Well, then hit OK. Then you can do the same with the other and make it light. But I know when you start applying images, you can get 4 or 5 different versions up here, especially if you're blending different images. So we've added the ability for you to rename these files as you're working, so you don't get confused between which one's which. I know it's happened to me a lot when I'm applying and duplicating, and you wind up with 4 or 5 versions in this.
Yes, and that was a huge help for me, because sometimes I was doing 4, 5, 6 of these. I said, which one is which, back and forth. But thank you, Heath. That helped me a lot personally.
Yeah, it's actually just released yesterday, so that's a brand new feature.
I'm thankful for the programmers. That really helps me a lot. So again, we're going to just start with the top image, the dark, and I'm going to make some slight adjustments to it. A basic adjustment, because I want to open this up a little bit. And we're going to change the exposure a little bit, change the shadow a little bit. I don't want to go overboard, because this is the darker image, and what I'm trying to make sure is that these window treatments, the outside is coming in. So we will take a black level from down below where it's dark, and then I'll take a white level from the window, this spot right here, and you can see it open, but it didn't blow out the outsides of the window there at all. So now we will bring in the bottom image, the light one that I've renamed light. And again, we'll click on the icon or the thumbnail, and we're going to reverse this to black. It's my preferred method that works the opposite. So if you work with a white mask, put the lighter image on top and the darker image on the bottom, but it does work the same way. And again, we'll use luminosity for this one, and we're going to go with the spot over here, and we'll mark the transparency, because what I want coming through is the windows. And we'll drop this down, and you can see those windows turning black. And that's what I'm looking for, is the black mask, so the original look of outside stays the same. And we will tweak this after. Press today, done. Then I'm going to press apply and save it. So now I've got a blended image, which is my new base in which to start. So we'll start with this one, make some adjustments in basic adjustment. We're going to see if we can open this up a little bit while we're maintaining here. So we'll open up some shadow. Exposure, I think, is just a little bit still. There we go. And we'll bring the highlights down to, I don't lose this. Black and white level I'm fine with. And then we're going to bring the clarity up just a hair. And then we're going to go into add the contrast, precision contrast. And again, it's you do shadow. I mean, if you look at the different presets that are available here, a little too harsh for me. We're just going to leave it with some minor tweaks of what I think is the right amount for this particular one. If you go gross, you're going to see that's what you get. So everything really seasoned to taste. A little perfume is the right amount, and too much stinks. So we're keep maintaining the outside. I'm opening up inside, and then we're going to add a little bit of edges. My favorite, because I want this brickwork to really, really come out a little bit. And the floors and all of the leaves on the floors. Suppress the weak, and we'll bring the thickness up just a hair. And good so far. And now we're going to go to black and white and add a black and white adjustment layer here. And it changed the look of this completely. And what I would do, or recommend you do, always is check the presets and see if one of them works just where you want. Let's pick the green filter and we'll go make some changes from there. So I'll make a plus on the red. I'll make a plus on the yellow because that's going to have a yellow on the walls. It's going to open it up just a little bit. And the green as well. I mean, if you go significantly gross, you'll see a big change, but just a little bit. I'm very happy there. One last change for detail, precision detail, and we're going to go with one of the presets on this particular one, and it's going to be shadow detail. And you can see that this is now starting to have a edge to it, if you will. And now the last, I'm happy with the default on this one. I'm very happy with it. So I didn't need an adjustment. Last adjustment is going to be adding in a vignette just to draw you in. And I want to bring this down to about there. And I'd be happy, very happy. And that would sell on a gallery wall in a heartbeat.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's worth noting too, even if you don't own some of these pro adjustments that Joe's using with precision detail, those presets, even if you don't own that adjustment, you still get all of those presets for free. So if you're missing precision detail, he keeps using presets there. You can recreate that exact same look. Because I mean, basically everything above that white line that you're seeing in the adjustments there, of course, vignette is free. But even on the pro adjustments, everything above that, the masking, the blending modes, opacity changes, adjustment level presets, all of those are included free with Topaz Studio. So there's a lot of flexibility you get for free here.
Yeah, I mean, does everybody know how to make their own presets?
I mean, pretty much everybody would like to. I mean, I think a lot of people do, but if you want to show it, that'd be great. Because I know you've been using your custom presets a lot.
Yeah, let's just say that this was a custom preset that I liked. Would come down to this box here, and it names it whatever you want to call it, Joe's black and white. And then you could tag it to be whatever you need it to be, fine art. So it's going to fit in the fine art category, and you can tag it with different attributes. So when you search for it, there it is. So that's as simple as it can be possible to save a preset. Once you're happy with what it looks like, it may apply perfectly to the next image that you work on. It may need a little bit of tweaking, but it's really good as a starting point for kicking off your other images that are going to be similar.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is what I use those one-click effects for, especially making my own. If I find a workflow that I use over and over and over and over, even if it's just as a starting point, or if I find myself using the same adjustments, I'll make a one-click effect for that look, and then I can just go back and tweak it instead of having to rebuild it every single time.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I've got one up here called, it makes one My Effects. So this new one I just made will show up in here. And these are some of the typical ones that I'll be using if I'm shooting indoors. I'll use some for stuff that is sunsets with clouds, sunsets with no clouds, sunrises with and without clouds, and interior buildings. I've got an ocean one in here, a night photography preset in here. All of the typical ones that are going to end up being a starting point for me, and then you just tweak the taste.
Guys, if you want to follow Joe, you've seen a lot of his work. We didn't have time to get into the nitty-gritty details of his workflow, but he has a lot of great stuff on his website, joereardonphotography.com. You can also follow him on Facebook at facebook.com, Joe Reardon Photography. I know he'd love to hear from you. You guys shoot him a comment or a message. And as always, if you have questions, you can contact us at webinars@topazlabs.com. You can sign up for upcoming webinars. I'm waiting on some of my presenters to get them images and stuff. A lot of people are doing workshops as it's starting to get into spring. So we'll have more webinars coming up on topazlabs.com/webinars. Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I'm sorry.
I had a blast. Thank you.
I nearly made it without coughing. And I'm sorry for my audio guys. I'm having to broadcast from home because I am homesick. They kicked me out of the office because they don't want me getting anybody else sick. So guys, check it out. Give Joe's website a follow. If y'all missed anything, don't worry. You're going to get a recording, a link to the recording and coupon codes, all this stuff, and a follow-up email that I'll send out in about an hour. And for everybody, thank you so much for coming. Joe, thank you again. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are.
Thank you.